So, let's begin. Welcome everybody to the ACRL Virtual Worlds Interest Group, which is part of the American Library Association. We've been meeting here in Second Life since 2009 with monthly programs about teaching and learning in the metaverse. Open to anyone. We meet on the third Wednesday at 9 a.m. right here at the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium Fireside Deck at the Welcome Plaza. And for this month, today we have the topic of using holodecks for immersive learning. When introducing people to the metaverse for the first time, especially for education and libraries, I like to point out to people that the metaverse is a place, not an app. We are together sitting here, and I'm going to cam out to see some of you. We're all sitting here together around this fireside deck in an actual place. So I'd like you to type a Y if you feel that this is an actual place that we are sitting in. Unlike an app where you're looking and scrolling and deleting your incoming information. So I see some Ys. It's a persistent space where we are embodied as avatars, but we are real people, sharing a sense of presence together. Which, unlike Zoom, which is a great tool and has been very helpful, I sometimes feel separated because I can see the other person is far away. I'm looking through my camera at them, but we're not in a space together. If we let go of the idea of the physical reality, here we are in a shared space. And it's real. And within this real place, we can share interesting experiences in all kinds of settings, from very realistic settings to those beyond our wildest dreams. One can enter the story, so to speak, or a faraway land, visit a faraway place. So does anybody know here who first created a holodeck? Who first coined that term? Type in the local chat if you're familiar with the term holodeck and where it originated. And you'll see on my slide here a little bit about the holodeck and the yellow lines of a grid that's computer simulated. It was from the TV show Star Trek originally. The Star Trek holodeck was inspired by inventor Gene Dolgoff, who owned a holography laboratory. Holography, not sure exactly how you say that, but it's all about holographs. And he was in New York City. Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry met Dolgoff in 1973. So recently, I was thinking about holodecks. We have one at the Community Virtual Library, but I thought I would find a library holodeck that would simulate a traditional old library. And so I just looked on the Second Life marketplace, and I found a very inexpensive library holodeck. You can look and see, here it is on the marketplace. Creative people can create these little rooms or bubbles or holodecks and share them, sell them, and people can use them to create scenes. So I simply resed that object, and you'll see it here. It's a black cylinder box. I resed it over at Çağ University, which is in Turkey, where I sometimes do presentations with students. Here I am inside the first stop where we're going today, a library holodeck. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up in just a minute, and we're going inside a holodeck. And then in a little bit, we'll have time to discuss holodecks. So be thinking about this as we're walking. Now, don't get lost, because we're going to go some places today. I don't want you to just sit here staring at me, talking to you about holodecks. I want you to interact with the holodeck. So if everyone would stand up, please. I'll stand too. And feel free to IM and ask for a teleport should you get lost. I'm going to give you the slurl to Cha University, and you will land inside the library holodeck. Meet you there. Take a seat when you get there, and you can wait for me. Look around, cam around, and find a seat. And when everyone is seated, if you'll use your camera with your Alt-Zoom keys, I want you to cam over and look at me, because you'll see that I was able to res my slides right here as well. And I'll go back to the slide where here we are in the holodeck. You can see me standing here in the holodeck. So think about teaching and learning here. I've got my slides. You're moving around in different spaces. Think about how this could be applied for education and for libraries. We're inside a holodeck above Cha University, which is in Turkey. This is a global experience. And I'm going to show you in just a minute where I present when I'm talking to students at Cha University or other students, the Turkish students and others, right below where we are in the holodeck in just a moment. I'm going to ask you in a minute to follow me, and we're going to go outside the holodeck. I want to keep you interacting. I don't want to lose you. So in Second Life, sometimes when you go on tours, it's difficult because you're flying, you're bumping into things, you get into cramped spaces, you can get lost. With practice, it's no worry. You can find your way back. You can simply teleport to the next space. So I'm going to ask you to stand up again and walk over to the door, which is right beside me, right here. And we're all going to walk out of the holodeck. I want to turn around and get a little shot of you coming over to the door. I want you to line up here at the door. Oh, I feel like a teacher. Line up, class. Line up at the door. We're going to walk out this door. Don't fall off the ramp. If you do, it's okay. You don't get hurt. We're going to walk down a ramp and fall into my digital dark room. This is where I discuss some of the concerns surrounding digital citizenship. So, you see the door? If you get lost, just ask for a teleport. Straight down the ramp, you'll see trees. Just walk right through them. Don't fall off. And drop into the black box, my digital dark room. You'll fall in. And you can find a seat on a beanbag. I'll just sit over here while everybody's gathering. In fact, I'll sit up here by my slides. Okay, I'm up here in the sky, sitting above you. Everybody find a seat on a beanbag. Excellent. When I do a talk on digital citizenship, I often move from slide to slide, like we are right here, have the students follow me with their eyes, with their camera, as I move over here and talk about problems with social media, FOMO, too much information, confirmation bias, the rise of AI on education, all of these different things that we are facing as educators inside this digital darkroom. I wanted to bring you here because it's similar to a holodeck, but it's not exactly the same. A holodeck can res an entire scene with a click of a button, where here I just created a black box and put my content inside. Now I'm going to walk over here. In here I talk to the students about things like data mining, cybersecurity, all the issues that we're now responsible for as digital citizens. And then look at the slide above me as I move over here by the blue circle and cam up. After I've scared them half to death, with all of the dark side of digital culture, I ask, will we keep our humanity in the metaverse? Well, to me, it's only if we understand digital citizenship. And how can we do that? We can do that together, talking about these issues. So I take them to the Community Virtual Library, and I'm going to ask you to stand up. I'm keeping you active here. Just when you got comfortable on your beanbag, stand again. And we're going to leave the perils of social media and teleport to the library. You can use the blue teleporter where Malia just stepped. And it'll take you, a map will open up and you can teleport to the upper room of the Community Virtual Library. Use the blue teleporter, or you can use this Second Life URL. And I will meet you there. This is the upper reading room of the Community Virtual Library. If you need a landmark, I can drop you that. There are always many ways to get around the metaverse. If you stand on it and touch it, it will give you the map, and then you can just teleport to the upstairs. Or just touch it. Just use left click and touch it, and you'll get the map. Excellent. I think all of us made it up here to the upper room of the Community Virtual Library. Okay. Oh, I see I have a couple slides up here that I've been sharing with people for some reason, but that's fine. Now let's just make sure that everybody made it. And you can get comfortable here for a couple minutes before we head to our CVL holodeck. Type a Y if you can still hear me. Great. Okay, we haven't lost voice. That's great. And let's just make sure we didn't lose. I'm looking for Tab and Elite. Oh, Elite is here? Great. Okay. Now, I want you to walk out this balcony, just when you got comfortable again. Walk out on this balcony, and you can look over the edge. Okay, it's right down here over the edge. In fact, I'm going to walk right out on the tile roof. Walk out on the balcony, and you'll see a blue TARDIS out here. Let me just get Tab here. Teleporter didn't want to work. See the blue TARDIS, everybody? I'm going to ask you to just either fly or jump off the roof, and let's go down to that blue TARDIS box. Just jump on down off the roof, and this is a blue TARDIS. Dawn Graymist, one of our amazing CVL librarian builders, created this blue TARDIS. And this is one way to get to the CVL holodeck. A TARDIS is a clever way to do it because it's another sci-fi object that we can recognize through our different historical media and movies and television shows. Who knows where the blue TARDIS came from, by the way? Did it come from a particular story, movie, show? The TARDIS. I bet somebody knows. Yep, Clyde, it's Doctor Who. Doctor Who's blue TARDIS will get us to the CVL holodeck. So what you're going to do is left click and touch the holodeck, and then you will teleport to the CVL holodeck in the sky. So you just click, and I'll meet you at the holodeck in the sky. I wanted to show you that we're interacting here with going to places. And now we'll enter a holodeck to discuss what this is all about and how we can use it for teaching. So this is one way to get to the holodeck. Or you can just use this slurl that I'm putting in local chat. Or I can drop you the actual landmark. Several ways to get there. Use the TARDIS, use the slurl, or use the landmark. And I will meet you there. All right, everybody made it to the holodeck, and just kind of cam out and see how cool it looks way up here in the sky. Click on the lens door and let's walk in. You all can walk over here and see the control panel first before we go inside. Walk over here, I'm going to stand right by the control panel. And you can see the control panel right now. I'm going to click on the control panel, and I am going to turn it into the Nautilus point. Okay. Then you can see that the scene above the control panel is a beautiful sort of futuristic world of color called the Nautilus point, and water. It looks like a futuristic water scene. So I've chosen the Nautilus point. Let's all walk inside the holodeck now. This is the control room. Let's walk inside and take a seat in the Nautilus point. I love the blue. Everybody take a seat. You might turn off an AO if you're wearing one. Excellent. All right, you guys are doing great. We haven't lost anybody, and you've all made it inside our CVL Community Virtual Library Holodeck. Cam around and look at how we're all together, having a shared experience. How many of you have actually had memories of places in Second Life that seem as vivid as memories you've had in the physical world? Would you type in the local chat a Y if you've had virtual world memories that are as real as physical world memories? I see a Y. Yes, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's a beautiful scene, and we're in it, sharing it together. I'd like to also ask you to type a Y if you've ever had a dream and you were in the virtual world. If you've been in Second Life or another virtual world in the metaverse long enough, you may have had a dream, and you're in the virtual world, and it's a real place. So I think I'm seeing some why about dreams and memories and real relationships. Have you ever had a friend in Second Life that is as close to you as any friend in the physical world? I'm going to type friend so I know in the chat all these Y's. Keep track of them. Friend, Y. Yes, I see all these Y's. Some of the friends I have in Second Life are very close relationships that I've never actually met in the physical world. And when I have met some of them in the physical world, they are exactly like their avatar. Even if in a different way, even if their body looks a little different, it's the same essence. So before we discuss using holodecks, for specific scenes, I'm going to ask for one of you to be a reader. And I've already asked Zri. Zri, would you be our reader number 1? And I'm going to drop a note card to everyone too so they can see. That Zri is going to be our reader, and I'm going to ask Zri to read the passage number 1. So here's the mic for you, Zri.
Holodecks, Reader 1. The holodeck is a fictional device from the television franchise Star Trek which uses holograms, projected light, and electromagnetic energy, which creates the illusion of solid objects. To create a realistic 3D simulation of a real or imaginary setting in which participants can freely interact with the environment as well as objects and characters, and sometimes a predefined narrative. In several series, holodecks are an amenity available to the crew of starships. In the series Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a similar device is referred to as a holosuit, operated by the owner of the space station's bar, Quark, who rents them out to customers. From a storytelling point of view, the holodeck permits the introduction of a wide variety of locations and characters, such as events and persons in the Earth's past, or imaginary places of beings that would otherwise require the use of plot mechanisms such as time travel or dream sequences. Writers often use it as a way to pose philosophical questions.
Thank you, Zri. Ooh, I love that last line. A way to pose philosophical questions. Because you are surrounded in this scene together, and it helps you sort of immerse yourself and become a critical thinker. What is this all about? You dig deep into the thoughts. And welcome, Eclectic. We're just getting started, and we just read a little bit about holodecks. So get comfortable. We're inside the scene called Nautilus Point. We just had reader 1, which was Zri. Now I'm going to ask you all to stand up because I'm going to change the scene. And when I change it, it might be a little uncomfortable if you're sitting in the middle of something else. So I'm going to stand. Everybody stand up. I'm going to walk out there and change the scene. Notice as I change the scene what the holodeck looks like. Just like in Star Trek, it will look like yellow lines on a grid, and you're just inside the grid. Think about that, and let me just see which direction I need to walk. Oh yeah, here's the door. You can see I'm walking through the door. It's a little bit hard to find the door inside the scene, but that's great because it doesn't interrupt the scene. Okay, so I'm going to change the scene now to the Starship Bridge. Let's go to Star Trek since we've been talking about it. Starship Bridge, okay? Oops, almost walked the wrong way. All right, we're kind of inside the Starship Bridge. Find a seat. You can be the captain, sit wherever you want. Somebody jump up there at the control panel. Somebody be a captain. Find a seat around the Star Bridge. I'm going to sit over here. Clyte's over here. And you can use your Alt-Zoom key. Okay. I think, stranger, are you the captain? Is that where the captain sits? We need somebody at the control panel. Go for it. So you can see how we are immersed in a shared space. Oh, great, Tori. Blast us off. Beam me up, Scotty. So I'm going to ask another reader while we're in here inside the Starship Bridge to read another passage. And let me drop it to everyone. And I'm going to ask Clyte to be reader number 2. Just 1 second. I'll also pass the note card so everybody can get it. And then I'll turn off my mic for Clyte to read.
Reader 2, The Origins of the Holodeck. The first appearance of a holodeck type technology in Star Trek came in the Star Trek The Animated Series episode, The Practical Joker, where it was called the Recreation Room in the episode's story. Dr. McCoy, Zulu, and Uhura are trapped inside it by the ship's computer. The holodeck was a frequent plot mechanism in Star Trek The Next Generation, beginning with the 1988 episode The Big Goodbye, in which the holodeck played a central part of the plot. Prior to Star Trek, science fiction writer Ray Bradbury wrote about a technology-powered nursery, a virtual reality room able to reproduce any place one imagines, in his 1950 story, The Veldt. The word holograph comes from the Greek words holos, whole, and graphe, writing or drawing. Hungarian-British physicist Denis Gabor received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1971 for his invention and development of the holographic method, work done in the late 1940s. The discovery was an unexpected result of research into improving electron microscopes. The original technique is still used and is known as electron holography. Optical holography was made possible by the development of the laser in the 1960s. The first practical optical holograms recording 3D objects were made in 1962 by Yuri Denisyuk in the Soviet Union and by Emmett Leith and Juris Apataneks at the University of Michigan in the United States.
Thank you, Clyte. Great reading, and great reading for Zri too. I love the beautiful voices with some accents from other regional areas. So many different places can come together in the metaverse. and some difficult names from other cultures as well. Great job. So, let's see here. I'm going to, I want to tell you also to zoom in on Stranger, who always seems to have the appropriate avatar for any occasion. Dr. Spock has joined us right here on the Starship Bridge. I love it. And so for our another scene, finally, I want to ask one of you to stand up and go choose a scene. First one to type in the text chat, me. Yes, me. Type yes if you would like to be the one to go out the door and choose a scene. All you have to do is click on the control panel and choose one of those scenes. Does somebody want to do that? It's super fun, and don't worry if you make a mistake. It can't hurt anything. I'm zooming out, and I see. If you zoom out, you see the control panel. Okay, Clyde is going to stand up, and let me see. I'll stand up too, just to be able to see a little bit better. And Clyde, let's see, the door to the holodeck. Can you find it over there? Let's see if she can find it. Okay, hold on. I teleported away, but that's okay. I'll come back in. Okay, are you finding it okay, Clyde? Let's see what she's doing. I went to help her and I teleported right outside. So okay, I'm going back in to the scene. Okay, Clyde, do you see the control panel? Right here, if you just click on it, your different blue choices will come up and you can choose a room. Great. And Sue Moon's asking for a teleport, so I will get her over here too. And we'll see which scene Clyde has chosen. And see, it's right in front of me, Clyde. It says, Holodeck control panel. Touch this panel for menu. Great, she's choosing a scene. Okay, and Sue Moon's here. We're going back into the holodeck, Sue Moon, so follow me. We're going into, she chose Planet Dusk. Cool, okay. All right, we've gone to another planet. Everybody find a seat here in Planet Dusk. Do we have enough seats? I'll let everybody sit. I'll stand for a minute until everybody's seated. This scene is called Planet Dusk, so you see we've gone to probably another planet here. And you noticed in between the scenes, as the holodeck was changing, there were the yellow lines of the grid. I think it just helps our mind understand what it is that we're experiencing if we have that consistent little look of the holodeck is rezzing into a new scene. Yes, it's a really cool scene. It's a futuristic, you kind of see bubbles floating and interesting plants and things like that. I think there's a chair for everybody. I'll sit here by Sue Moon. So I think as a librarian, my first ideas for utilizing holodecks, the first time I ever went to one, I imagined that you could enter the book. Rather than just open pages and read the book, we still want to read. I still love books. I wear them on my head, But think about being able to enter the story together. When you're reading it, when you're talking about it, when you're discussing it, you can enter the scene rather than simply read it. And I think the snow crash scene that we have here and the post-apocalypse scene are really good examples of that. I'll show you those two in just a minute. Dawn, when we were reading Snow Crash, how many of you have read Snow Crash? Type a Y in the chat if you've read it. And the reason I ask is because it's the first book that ever used the word metaverse. Neil Stephenson is credited for coining the term, the metaverse. And written way back in early 1990s, the metaverse was still a sci-fi concept, and now we're in it. And so the Snow Crash, it's kind of a thriller, but Dawn built the scene right here. And in a minute, I'll change this to Snow Crash so you can see what the Snow Crash scene looks like. But for any story, if you have that scene, the readers can imagine, and rather than, it's so passive to watch a movie. I love watching a movie when it really matches a great story. And, movies and books will always be a great way to tell a story. But here it's more active because you're in it. So, yes, it's Neil Stephenson who did Snow Crash. So, let's all stand again, and I'm going to change it to Snow Crash just so you can see, since some of you have read the book. And hero protagonist is the protagonist. That's his name. And, he's got his sword, and he's it's a really great story to read. It's fun. Here's Snow Crash. Okay, I'm changing it. So, you can just stand up, and then Snow Crash will res, and you can sit in one of the chairs along the main highway. This is the main street. In Snow Crash, the setting is the main street. The metaverse has this gigantic main street, and there's a lot of similarities to Second Life. Notice Hero up here. Dee Dee's up there by Hero, who's at the DJ table. So this is Snow Crash, and we did several book discussions on Snow Crash in this scene, which is kind of cool. So take a seat here, and I'll see if our reader number 3 would like to read. I'll just sit over here. Sulu's sitting in that one. I'll sit in this one. Everybody find a seat, and Malia is going to be our 3rd reader. So I'm going to drop the note card. Hold on just a second. For reader number 3. It's right here. I'll drop it to everybody. And everybody can just get comfortable and hear reader number 3, Malia Rose. Here's the note card for reader number 3. And I'll turn off my mic so you can read, Malia.
Okay. In most Star Trek episodes, the holodeck is a normal room within a starship. A panel outside the entrance offers the user various settings to select a program or adjust the experience. The inside of the holodeck, when not running a program, is typically shown as an empty room of medium size. The floor and walls are depicted in different ways, either covered in a bright yellow grid on a black background in Star Trek: The Next Generation, a metallic grid structure in Star Trek Voyager, or various other mechanisms. When the holodeck is activated, the room disappears, replaced by a realistic, interactive simulation of a physical world. The door also disappears until the program ends or the user requests an exit verbally. The holodeck can be controlled by voice commands or a computer terminal called the ARC, which can be summoned by verbal command to provide manual controls. Some simulations are pre-programmed, while others are constructed on the fly by the user, describing objects to be simulated to the computer.
Thank you so much, Malia. So you can imagine that the setting is enhanced as we enter the story. It's not that we have to do that. I still love books. I love enjoying great, well-done movies, but it's another way to experience something together. So I'm going to stand up and go do one more holodeck for us to sit in and discuss. It's a little creepy. I'm going to take you to the post-apocalypse. As I was a librarian after the turn of the century, many post-apocalyptic, they call them dystopian fiction, post-apocalypse. A lot of those stories of zombies began to really become popular. So stand up so you're not stuck in a chair when we get to the post-apocalypse scene. And when you finally get it all res, come sit on one of these rusty old crates. What do you think? Pretty, isn't it? No. So there are many uses of the holodeck. For me, I consider, entering the book, entering a place of history. If you're teaching history, you can enter the place. I can think of a lot of uses. When I brought one group here one time, one of the avatar guys said, "This looks just like my son's bedroom." It's like it is a little bit dark and dismal, and that's what dystopian fiction is all about. You're in something post-apocalypse. So I want to discuss what you've experienced here today and how you think it can be used for teaching and learning. And I'm going to open this up to feel free to use voice or local chat. And the first question I want to ask you is, what uses of a holodeck came to your mind for your particular subject or interest, or just what came to mind that you think you could do, talk about, discuss, experience in a holodeck? Does somebody want to share what they've been thinking about? Or you can also tell me if this is your first experience ever going in a holodeck, how it felt for you, or if you've been in many holodeck experiences, share another. Okay, and Dee Dee is saying, I think it would be cool to move through various body parts. Absolutely. A holodeck inside the human body to teach biological science. Go inside the heart. It kind of reminds me of the Magic School Bus series. There was the one of Inside the Human Body, where the kids follow Ms. Frizzle down inside the heart and the lower ventricle and all of that. This is the Magic School Bus. We can do that now. Yes, you could set up a class to teach, but I think what I wanted to really have you walk away with today is the idea that I didn't want to sit at the fireside deck and just show slides to you about a holodeck. We could do that on Zoom. I wanted you to go somewhere, click on something, do something. And I think we're still learning how to do that as teachers in the metaverse. How to pace student learning because I don't think we want to ever do away with classrooms, but we want to use these tools for their best purpose. And Clyde's asking, was that a movie where they were in a miniature submarine in a person's body? I think there was a movie of that. And maybe even in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and some of those movies where people have been, shrunk to really tiny, tiny sizes. But the Magic School Bus series brings kids deep into concepts like they traveled into electricity and went through the wires of a building. You could teach electricity here and actually do that. Go inside something. It's so much more experiential, and you can really learn a concept when you enter it rather than just look at a picture in 2D or read simply the words and the text. Not to say that that's not powerful. The first virtual worlds were text only. I don't want us to rob ourselves of our imagination. How cool to create a virtual world in your mind through words only. P says different triage scenes for health students. Yes, and I did one on emergency management one time. We went inside a burning building. I got to drive the ambulance, and I'm not a gamer, so I couldn't figure out how to drive it very well. But it was so powerful to go in and rescue people. Great example of a use in the metaverse. Zuri says to show historical places. Tori says for archaeology, for art. And Dee Dee asks, is there anywhere someone can go to learn how to actually create various scenes for a holodeck? I'd love to find someone to teach us that. Dawn is not here today. She's in her academic library for her physical world job. I think she purchased the shell of this holodeck, but I think there's a way to create your own scenes, and perhaps I can get her to share that. And then I purchased the one where we first started, and we went to that little simple library holodeck. So people are creating these, but I think you can also add scenes to your holodeck. And I agree with Clyde. History can come alive by changing the scene instantly and being able to be inside it. Although I don't think the entire metaverse can categorized as a holodeck because part of it is that we want our students to build the scenes themselves and to walk and teleport to different places. So understanding the purpose of the holodeck is different than teleporting to the places where I took you earlier, the Community Virtual Library, the Fireside Deck. And yes, archaeology, dinosaurs. Have you ever been in the metaverse and a giant dinosaur was right there? It's kind of scary with great big jaws above you. Tori says, years ago a friend got a holodeck system and made her own club scenes for a beach, sci-fi, etc., etc. Yes, great for, even just for fun and social interaction and having a party and hanging out together to be able to create a scene for a specific theme is pretty cool. Okay, and I has one. Feel free to tell us about it. It's, what your use of a holodeck is, and you can use voice or local chat.
Well, I wasn't speaking of having a holodeck, although I do have a think tank in our Nature's Empire building, which I really had intended to be like a holodeck space that could evolve and be anything we want it to be. So that's why I was really interested in coming today. And I really think a good use for me is helping people in my hometown, for instance, to re-envision reality, re-envision how we could see a park. That my New Year's wish actually was that Canton would see and shine the light on its hidden in plain sight assets, like a couple of parks we have and an abandoned train station, and how we can help them really, to envision and experience that.
Great comments. Yes, because you could show the beauty of nature and physical spaces, because one of the big elements of digital citizenship is understanding how to balance our lives in the virtual world and the physical world. And this is going to become more of a critical need in the future as kids are using their digital devices all the time. And of course, VR headsets are not really ready for mainstream. I'm on my second one. I've done Oculus Rift, Oculus Quest 2, and I'm not going to invest the $3,000 in the Apple Pro. It's not even getting good reviews. So VR headsets are not ready for kids, but the metaverse is. They're in Minecraft, they're in these worlds, and we need to figure out how to use them for education. And I think I like the point that Tori mentions. This saves on prims. Perhaps the holodeck could also help us to res scenes, save time and save prims when we need to. And also remind us of the beauty of the physical world and that concept of balancing your time. There are apps now to remind you, go outside and take a walk, go enjoy the beauty of nature, balance your life. What else comes to mind as far as this scene and this topic of using the holodecks for teaching and learning? Cool. Clyde's talking about a wonderful VR experience, the Caves of Lascaux in France. I should tell Bruce Cooper, who has recreated those in Kitely, the caves. He's fascinated with the Lascaux caves. And places like that. And I think, you've got to meet Cooper in Kitely. He's got a giant replica of the Caves of Lascaux. We have a VWEC outpost, whole area in Kitely, the virtual world of Kitely. So you can meet Cooper there. The Student Challenge might want to think about a holodeck. And they could certainly do that. That we've only done our first one. There's one going on right now. The registration is still open for the Student Challenge. I'll put the link in the chat. And creating a holodeck could certainly be part of that. If you know an educator or some students that like to build in Second Life, it's not too late to join the challenge, which is taking place from now through April. Time travel. Oh yes, I think that'd be so cool. And I know that Malia Rose here was very active in an amazing historical sim called Berlin. And I believe it took place in the 20s. And it would just, every year, it would start over, and that you were always in that time period in the 1920s. And you felt immersed in 1920. And the woman who created it in real life, she collects all kinds of physical world 20s objects, clothing, furniture. So she's an expert on that and even helps movie sets. So if you have anything you want to say about that, Malia, I know you were there for a while and maybe even were a librarian in Berlin, I'm not sure. But it was a great example of time travel in the metaverse. Yes, Malia posted a book club there for 6 years. And oh, so Joe created a book. I need to find that because that's very cool. If she published a book about her area of expertise, the 20s, and using the metaverse for historical eras. And of course, the Dickens Project, which always takes place during the era of A Christmas Carol. So you're in the about 1860s, wearing that historical costumes. Time travel is so great in the metaverse because you get to participate rather than just watch and view. Oh, good. There's the link.
So the Berlin was part of a time portal, they called it. There was a place you went, or there was a room with various portals around in a circle around you, and you went to different times. It was a Victorian build. It was the Berlin 20s. It was a New York City in the 30s, I think, and various. It's kind of cool.
Yes, stranger. And when you said that, it kind of reminded me that, historical accuracy will be important for teaching and learning. If we're going to bring kids into a historical simulation, we want to make sure that as much as possible, it's accurate. Although I always point out when I say that, if they've got on tennis shoes with their avatar and it's a teachable moment. You can say, I wonder when those were invented. We can figure that out. It's not like, and I always put it this way, we're not the costume cops, saying you've got to wear historical attire that is accurate. But it becomes a really great way to teach history when we strive to be authentic and accurate. And thanks for that link, Malia. The title, Fake History, 101 Things That Never Happened. I think that's a really cool title, considering we're sitting in a post-apocalypse area discussing holodecks in the metaverse when our world has turned into what some people call a post-truth world. It doesn't get any more meta-modern than this, people. And I will point out that we had high school students participate in our first student challenge. So these are young people that have grown up gaming, grown up in a world where they don't remember a world without the internet like some of us do. And so these tools, we've got to figure out ways to help them become critical thinkers and preserve history in a world that is rapidly changing. So I think finding the best ways to use tools like this holodeck is important for teachers because they can't teach the old 20th century way anymore. Any other thoughts about holodecks or anything that this makes you think of about teaching and learning in virtual worlds like Second Life? And thank you to my readers. I loved hearing your various voices.
I just had an idea from the education point of view, because I was a little concerned about the idea of making a holodeck of a book, because part of the thing about reading a book from me is the imagery you get in your head, your own head. But I was wondering, as an educator teaching a class of students, whether they were allowed a small holodeck each, and each created their sort of vision of how they envisaged the book. You understand what I mean? They'd get different points of view. There'd be variety, I think.
I totally understand what you're saying, and it reminds me of when I was growing up, we'd make a little diorama in a shoebox of something that we enjoyed in the book, a part of the book that we would talk about. And I think I did that with kindergartners with augmented reality. They would talk about the book, you could have those links with an augmented reality app to their book report. So you can use augmented reality to do sort of like reading reports. You could do holodecks it's sort of like the book report of the future, because your question raises the concern, are we still going to be reading print? I think we are. To me, the highest level of critical thinking is the abstract. It's the words, not the images, not the, it's taking words into your mind and thinking about them. So I hope that reading is still going to be required, and it's going to be, going to be books in print will still always be around because it's a great format. But I mentioned whenever somebody brings up that concern, if you're really concerned about that, 2 books to read. The Shallows by Nicholas Carr, What the Internet's Doing to Our Brain. He says we are not going to be linear readers 20 years from now. We jump from link to link. And then the other one is Dear Reader, Come Home. It's a great book by Marianne Wolfe about how the children's brains are changing. And she calls them biliterate. They're able to switch from digital content to physical content, back and forth quickly, with a different kind of brain. For me as a librarian, I don't think kids should be given digital devices, and hold off as long as possible. Certainly not infants and not young children preschool. Gently introduce them in elementary school with clear purpose so that they learn to read words, and they sit in your lap and turn pages and talk about it and have time to reflect without jumping to the next link.
Words can be confusing, though. Con meaning against, fuse meaning together.
Absolutely. I love that too. That's the thing why I say that it's the highest level of critical thinking, because when you're reading a book, if each one of us had a book right now in our avatar hands, and we were actually reading it in our physical world, it's a different book that each one of us is reading. Every single word, we bring the connotation of meaning from our whole background, our life, our culture, our experience to that book. So it's a very intimate reading and writing is an intimate relationship between an author and a reader. Of course, if we read it all together and talk, that makes it more communal. But you're right, words are confusing because thoughts are hard to put in a little container called a word. And so we want to teach children how to do that and how to have a big vocabulary. If you don't have a big vocabulary, you cannot communicate. You don't have enough words, the containers for meaning.
Can I expand on that for a moment? Because I see the world differently. I kind of feel like I see a different language. It's what I call a language of links. And that's my challenge, is crossing the bridge of words between the language of links that I see that actually works quite well when I don't have to explain it to anyone. And, realizing the reality of that with people that can't necessarily see that language. So there's a show called Touch, if anyone's seen it. It was only on for 2 seasons, but it actually helped me to better understand how I see the world. And it's about a kid who doesn't talk, not because he can't, but because he basically sees this language of links, and he has to convey that to, and his father starts to, get it and to connect the links where things need to be connected. And he basically sees everything connected and sees where there's a disconnect and where those things need to fuse together to maybe save a life or whatever it may be. And that's how I see the world, and that's my challenge. So thank you for your.
Very cool. And did you say, is this a show or a book or a movie called Touch?
Yes, it was a Fox TV show called Touch. Kiefer Sutherland played the father, Martin, and the kid's name is Jake. And I will send you the link to the trailer, because just watching the trailer, you'll understand. It's wonderful. It actually brings tears to my eyes every time I watch it at the end when he says to Jake, "I can hear you now."
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great example of how when we are together and we have different perspectives and we bump into them and challenge our ideas, this is critical thinking. Because I was just saying that the word is the most powerful, highest level of thinking. And eclectic is challenging that, no, what if you can't talk? What if you can never hear or speak a word? So it's like, this is how we learn. And that's the point of being together, in a holodeck, to dig into a topic. But I do think that we can all agree that with young children, we have to pace these tools because the human brain is changing. Because so many of the things that we experience and the tools that we learn with are rapidly changing. And we have millions and millions of apps every day coming at us. Thank you for that link, stranger. Any other closing thoughts? Because I do want to thank you all for coming today. Remind you that we meet once a month for the ACRL Virtual Worlds Interest Group for topics like this to experience the metaverse for teaching and learning. So just look at our VWEC calendar on the events plaza, the main calendar, and you'll find out what the next one will be all about. And anything else anyone wants to say that's come to light as you've been thinking about what we experienced together.
Just thank you. That's all.